I saw the transformation of people get emotional about picking a cherry tomato off the vine or had never seen a cauliflower growing in the ground. And I remember thinking, here they are with the Sea of Cortez in the Sonoran Desert, and it's just stunningly beautiful. And what's really bringing them into their hearts is this garden. So that stayed with me, is still with me.
Hello and welcome to the Regenerative Design Podcast. I'm your host, Mathieu Mehuys, and in this show, I interview the leading authorities in the world of regenerative practices, people who do good and do well. Are you a person that cares about your environment and our planet, that wants to leave the planet to our children to be something that we can be truly proud of, to enjoy for many generations to come? But are you also a person that believes we can do all of this and do good in business? I have really good news for you. You're here listening to the podcast that is all about making our planet a better place and making your business more successful. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Regenerative Design Podcast with your host Mathieu Mehuys. And today we have an amazing guest once again. We have Amy McDonald on the show, and Amy is an amazing entrepreneur. She's been in business for many years, and she's the founder and CEO of Under a Tree. Under a Tree, what a cool company name. I'm very jealous about that name. And she has the business that she has is focused on regenerative wellness consulting, and she's worked with some of the biggest companies in the world. It's a very long list, but I wrote down some of the biggest ones. You've worked with Four Seasons, Six Senses, Marriott and Hilton. So I'm super excited to learn more about regenerative wellness and learn more about your journey. So Amy, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Nice.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this conversation. So I'd love to, you already told me this offline, and I think this story is very inspiring, but I want to share with the listeners. I'd love to hear again, like your backstory. How did you get into this, and how did your company get started?
Well, I would say without any kind of strategy and really having any plan for, my career and for my life work, when I look back, like probably many of us, when I look back and see how I got to where I am today, there's sort of this beautiful flow to it. But I think there's two main components that really got me here. The first one was I had a crazy idea while I was living in Canada to move to Mexico. I went on a sea-kayak trip around a deserted island, and it was one of those things that was unexpected. A friend called at the last minute, and her friend had canceled, and so I said yes. And it was March. It was in Toronto. It was cold. The economy it was just like not a great time. And so all of a sudden I was in Baja in this beautiful Sonoran Desert with the Sea of Cortez. And this is before cell phones. This is going back to 91. And when I did that week-long trip, when I finished, I knew that my life was going to completely change. And we've all had those moments. So I went to the owner and I said to him, I really want to move here. He said, everyone says that. Go home. And I was like, no, really, I am. And he was like, yeah. So I stayed an extra week and walked around, didn't speak a word of Spanish, but I walked around a small Mexican city, not a tourist city, called La Paz. And I just fell in love. I just like with all of my being. So I went back to Toronto and packed my bags and left my job, left the boyfriend, everything. And everyone thought that, I'd fallen in love with someone, and I had fallen in love with the place. Energetically, just on every level.
This podcast is brought to you by the Garden of Your Dreams Masterclass. Are you struggling with finding the right tools and tricks for your garden? Are you lacking the confidence to be a self-sufficient gardener? Do you sometimes get overwhelmed by the lack of knowledge and time you have to actually do gardening? Then the Garden of Your Dreams Masterclass is for you.
So anyway, I moved there and did a bunch of different things to obviously to make money and to get a visa. But that's when I found a couple of places. One was called Spa Buena Vista. It had a hot spring, and I've always loved hot springs. And so I convinced them that I could do massage there, and I was looking for ways, like it just sort of started there. And I don't really know where all of that came from. Anyway, long story short, I ended up convincing an American owner of a fishing lodge that had about, I don't know, maybe 12 rooms at the time, because he used to close in the wintertime. And this particular area of the East Cape, which is about, I don't know, an hour north, on the Sea of Cortez side, an hour north of the Cabo airport. But this is 91, right? So Cabo doesn't really exist. And anyway, so I convinced him that he should stay open. And he said, well, the reason that I don't stay open in the wintertime is this is known as a world-renowned windsurfing destination. And I said, I know, but like if you turn around and you look to the mountains, you've got towns and hot springs and I mean there's so much going on. So anyway, I think he thought like the original guy thought I was crazy, with the kayak trip. He said, okay, we'll stay open because I have to pay my staff anyway.
Yeah, that's a good one for many
So
hospitality
I
businesses.
Yeah, so I took down all the deep sea sport fishing photos and everything, and basically just slowly, and it didn't take long. We ended up having it open, and when I say open, like we offered yoga, we bought old secondhand fitness equipment and built a palapa for it. I knew an acupuncturist that came and did different types of treatments. Like it just sort of like
Wow.
it's pulled from all kinds of different people. We used to have herbal tincture workshops, and anyway, we built a really beautiful hike up to the top of this flat mountain that is still
Nice.
there. People still go. People
Wow.
drive from Cabo to do this hike. It's just
Wow.
crazy. I know.
That's
And,
cool.
but the thing that was probably the most important that I did was I had met someone who has since passed away, who was a renowned permaculturist, and he basically helped me put together an acre permaculture garden. Yeah, and
This is in
and
the 90s, amazing.
yeah, yeah, and basically I reached out to Santa Rosa, to the university there, and because I guess they have regenerative. I can't, I don't even know if that word was being used at the time, but anyway, so I had students come down who got to be in Mexico, and we gave them free room and board, and so that was really pivotal for me because it was something I didn't know anything about coming from Canada,
Mhm.
and a lot of the things that we did were pretty out of the box. We taught obviously the local farmers a different way to farm, which was incredible. Now that whole area on both sides of the mountain range, right? So Todos Santos, which is on the Pacific side, and the East Cape, have become, they're really more agricultural areas now than ever before.
Mhm.
Anyway, so what happened was guests would come. So there were no phones because we didn't have cell phones and we
Mhm.
didn't have regular phones. There were no TVs. It was basically community style eating. There was a big grill and everyone would come and cook whatever they wanted, and everyone ate together. And I lived on property. They had built me a house next to the garden. And so I was there every day. And in Mexico, you work 6 days a week. So it was really my life. And what happened was I saw the transformation of people get emotional about picking a cherry tomato off the vine, or
Mm.
had never seen a cauliflower growing in the ground, right? I mean, I could go on, right? And I remember thinking, here they are with the Sea of Cortez in the Sonoran Desert, and it's just stunningly beautiful. And what's really bringing them into their hearts is this garden.
Mm.
So that stayed with me, is still with me.
Wow.
Um, and I didn't know that permaculture wasn't done everywhere. Like I didn't know. All I knew was that this was fabulous, right? And people would drive from La Paz, from Todos Santos, and from the town of Cabo to come because we were the only place that had, at certain times of the year, lettuce and arugula, like all like right fresh. So it guided that area of Baja. Like everyone knows Cabo, but there's just magnificent towns all the way up each side, right? Because the peninsula goes like this.
Mm.
And so for me, it just became a community.
Wow.
Windsurfers came obviously in the wintertime because they're more, health focused. Anyway, so
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
that was really poignant for me. And so we stayed open. And the short part of the end of this story, or this chapter anyway, is that a writer from Canada came down the 10-kilometer dirt road and found me and wrote a story that went into the Globe and Mail, which is one of the two big newspapers in Canada, about this crazy, again crazy, Canadian woman. And what I told him was, people think of Mexico and they think of Montezuma's revenge, right? Like this is back.
Yeah.
They think they're going to get sick. Well, we have an artesian well. We have organic food.
What is an
And
artesian well? Artesian?
well, it means it's a
Ah,
natural well.
natural. Nice.
Yeah, so it had water, a
Spring.
lot of
Yeah.
water. Yeah. So people came. And I remember faxing, like anyways, it's
Well,
before
yeah,
email.
that
It's before email, and I
no.
mean, it's crazy.
So
Anyway,
that article then blew up probably the business, and your American guy would say like, "Oh, she's crazy, but whatever. Yeah, try it." He was
yeah,
probably very happy about how business turned.
I don't know that he cared, to be
Really?
completely honest. I mean, I think I'll never forget. After I left, I went back. I go back quite frequently. It's just been sold recently. It's going to be something different, but as soon as I left, he did the same thing. He took all the pictures of all the desert and, and the hot springs and like, because that's what we would do. People we had, remember when we used to not have real photographs?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how he felt about it,
Yeah.
but the fact that
Well,
he gave me that opportunity was really incredible.
yeah.
And so anyway, so that was really the first piece. So, but what happened with that article is the people read it. And not only, I mean, it did two things. Canadians came
Mm.
because they're not afraid of wind because they're looking for
More,
warmth, right?
more.
So we
Yeah.
did inland excursions, right? Into the mountains, into Santiago, into Miraflores, all these other towns. Yeah, I mean, it was great. And still today, it's interesting. All these years later, there still aren't excursions into all those small towns. Everyone's focused on Cabo and San Jose and
Yeah. And being on
Santo,
the beach.
but there's just incredible towns on the mountainside, that go
Wow.
into where yeah. Anyway,
I love
so
to
that
visit.
that was
And
a really, yeah, I would love for you to go. So that was really the first piece.
yeah.
And what I didn't know was that I had created, I don't have a word for it really, but what we would now call, I don't know, a wellness property. We ended up expanding to 30 rooms, so it was never very big, but although it's a much smaller version, it reminds me a lot of Rancho La Puerta, which is world renowned and more than 80 years old. It's in Tecate, so it's also in Mexico, but on the northern part of the peninsula. And it's a much bigger scale, but the richness and the rawness and the authenticity of it is like, and I didn't know about Rancho La Puerta at the time. And
That,
I didn't think
yeah.
about the spa, like none of those words. Well, spa was, but that wasn't what I created. I mean, we did have massage, obviously, and did,
Mm.
massage and different things. But anyway, it's fascinating to me to look back and think about that.
No, that's incredible. And
But
so
it was the beginning, really
was the
the
beginning, yeah.
beginning. Yeah. And
Yeah,
so that was,
a seed had sprouted from there.
yes, exactly. And then I ended up, I mean, there's more pieces to it, but the other really main experience that I had was immigrating to the US
Mm.
and being hired at Miraval, which at the time was called Miraval Life and Balance. Most people know Miraval, but when I worked there, it was owned by the original owners, a family. And they built Miraval because they were in the drug and alcohol rehabilitation. Like they did one of the very first 30-day or 28-day or whatever rehab centers. But what they did was they created incredible programming. Like now today, the programming that they did is in spas and lots of wellness resorts, but they really started a lot of it. So anyway, he built Miraval
Interesting.
because what he wanted to do is if he felt like if he could create a place that was about mindfulness and teach mindfulness, like deep immersion into mindfulness, that maybe
Mm.
people would not end up in his drug and alcohol hospital, right? And
Mhm.
so what ended up happening was people would come and stay there, but the families would come and stay at Miraval as well. So
That's nice.
it's evolved a lot. It's gone through four different owners. It's now owned by Hyatt. And now there's more locations. They just opened in Saudi Arabia. But the essence of it was mindfulness. And it's still, it still permeates through the DNA of the brand. It's fascinating. Anyway, for me, what happened was it changed me, certainly spiritually
Mhm.
be in an environment that was very committed to being in the moment and everything that goes with that. And then to have a staff, a team, from nutritionists to naturalists to psychologists, obviously there were massage therapists and we did facials and a lot of hiking and biking. We had an incredible horse program. We had
Mhm.
equine therapy because all of that was transferred from the hospital. They were
Mhm.
already doing equine therapy
Oh,
for
wow.
people struggling, yeah,
Interesting.
with addiction, yeah. And they had like a high and low ropes course and so what happened for me was I was overseeing the spa, which was huge. It was like
Mhm.
32 rooms, and I was overseeing all of the outdoor, indoor, educational, spiritual programming. And we had famous authors come and like authors that we would know today. And anyway, it was just an incredible time. And so it really transformed me. But the thing that was odd to me was why don't more resorts do this?
Mhm.
Because really it's a resort, right? It's
Yeah.
got lodging but it was really wellness, I'm going to call it wellness, but mindfulness was immersed and integrated and infused into everything.
Mhm.
It started with the staff,
Wow.
obviously. And it inspired me so much that when I left there, I knew that that was going to be a big part of my future. And it has been. I mean, we'd probably bring up all as it was then on almost every new client call to talk about because it's so much of the story, right? Because wellness was everywhere. It wasn't allocated to fitness or a
No.
spa building, right?
Yeah, just
And
to tick a few boxes there, like, oh, let's
and
put a
none of
gym and a
those
sauna and
and,
a
and none of
massage
those
room.
things made Miraval famous. Miraval became famous because of the extraordinary staff
Mhm.
and the programming.
Nice.
Like you might go for a hike, but like you might do it in silence or having your lunch in silence, like simple things. Mindfulness is so powerful and
And
yet
the
so
whole staff is aligned on that and they kind of
oh
encourage
my,
it or they,
everybody. Oh no, all of us.
wow.
I mean, the gardeners, I mean, they made the investment in giving us the opportunity as staff to understand the depth of living in the moment.
Wow.
So I mean, I didn't know that it was unusual either. It was really the first, resort that I'd been involved in other than the small one in Mexico.
Yeah.
So that was fundamental to me. So the Rancho Leonero, the one in Baja that I talked about, and Miraval. And then the next one, and then I'll finish this piece. When I left Miraval, it was a really hard decision because I loved it. It was just like leaving Rancho Leonero, you fall in love with the land and yeah, I moved to Taos, New Mexico and worked at a place called El Monte Sagrado. And it was a private owner, again, like a family owned, and he wanted to create the most, at the time, we would have said most sustainable property. This was just when LEED certification was coming in.
Nice.
There wasn't LEED certification available, and there were probably things about LEED certification even early on that he probably might not have agreed to, but a lot
Yeah.
of it he did.
So you went beyond.
And we worked with a company called Regenesis, who I had met in Mexico, like Pamela and Robert Mang.
Nice.
Robert's passed away, but I met them when I was working first in La Paz,
That's
like
awesome. I had
I
Bill
know,
on the show a couple
I
episodes
know,
ago.
I listened, yeah. So we also worked with a company that had a living system. So we basically had a whole water filtration. Like it was just extraordinary. And it wove, through the entire property. And each room, it was small. Each room was handmade. Like he actually went to each country. And I mean, his name was Tom Morrell. His is Tom Morrell. And so the interesting thing about him was he was just dead focused on and committed and didn't make any kind of commitments. He had a lot of money and wanted to have to showcase a property that had never been done before. And that's what he did. Just extraordinary. And
And
so
what's the name of that one?
that one is still in existence. It's called El Monte Sagrado.
Nice. Is that also in your presentation?
Not in my presentation.
Oh yeah, we can look at some other ones
I
later.
mean, I have it in my presentation, but I don't know that I sometime I don't know if I sent it to you. I might
Yeah,
have.
I can have a look.
Anyway, it was, an
El
ex
Monte Sagrado, that's it, right?
yeah,
In Taos?
yeah.
Oh, let's share the screen for the people that watch this on YouTube so we can actually get some visuals of how it looks. It looks amazing. Is it okay that I can share that?
Of course. Of course.
So this is it. Wow, amazing. And this is established in 2003. Yeah, yeah, sorry, keep talking about it. And this was done with
Yes.
Regenesis, this project?
So it was Regenesis and oh my God, another company that's actually in Taos that did the living system. I'm completely blanking on the architectural firm that we worked with, but we ended up calling it the Living Spa because the spa itself, there aren't any photos here, but you would walk in, it was all obviously Adobe, but um, it was e- every part of the property was extraordinary.
Hmm,
So
that looks incredible.
yeah, it got on the top, 500 list quickly. And I mean, it was interesting to see how quickly, I mean, we even had certified organic products in the treatment rooms that had been locally made. I mean, he spared no, oh yeah, that's a picture of the lobby on the right.
Wow, that looks wow, very intentional.
And there's some pictures of the spa, on the top left,
Yeah.
and then the treatment room, in the middle.
That's very interesting. So very fast you were in the right let's say projects where with the right people who were willing to invest in inner and outer regeneration. It sounded like.
Yeah, and he let me do everything that I wanted to do. I mean, who gets to do that, right? So the rest of the story is important, is that he put so much attention. Like if you think about back then, we used to say sustainability has three pillars, right? There's the economic. I can't even. It's funny. I now like because we talk about it so differently now, but I think it was the environment, the
People, profit, planet is the three P's
basically,
or
yeah,
not really?
basically, yeah. And
Mm,
well, the financial. There was
yeah.
always a financial piece.
Mm,
And so because he had a lot of money, right, he just like he did what he wanted to do and created an incredible work of art. It's still there. I can't rem I think it's part of the Kessler collection, which is part of Marriott, and they built more and put a conference. Like it's very different now. Um, but anyway, the reason for the story is mostly about what I learned and the painful lesson. So what I learned was you can have all the money in the world and the greatest and deepest of intentions and do it all and it not
mhm.
be successful.
Wow.
And the reason it wasn't successful, and I've told this story many times, and if Tom hears, I hope he, I hope he still loves me, um, because I had never been in the development part, right? I was an operator and a
Mm,
creator. I didn't know that he had never done the due diligence that's required for market research, for ensuring that it is in the right location. And there wasn't an airport in Taos that was working. And the Santa Fe airport was not working. It was not open at the time. I mean, it opened and closed, but so people had to fly into Albuquerque, which is a secondary airport. So this is a high-end Uber luxury, right? Like everything about it is incredible. But the type of people that are going to go there didn't necessarily want to drive the drive. And, we did all kinds of things to make the drive more interesting and more wonderful. But back then, an hour and a half or more drive was what people didn't want to do. And
mm,
they'd have to fly to a secondary airport like Albuquerque, right? So maybe today it would be different because the consumer is different and are hungry for like we've
mm,
evolved, right?
mm,
But the market's evolved, the consumer's evolved, but
mm.
was the right property in the wrong location and he was too ahead of his time.
Mm.
If he had done that maybe in Santa Fe, or in a different location. But so anyway, he ended up losing the business.
Well,
And Kessler came in and took it over. And that's when I started my company. First out of heartbreak, but also out of realizing that there were gaps.
mm. Yeah. That you have to
Like,
like be involved from the very beginning till that, yeah, if you only take care of operations, it's not
or if
guaranteed.
develop it without doing all like, and because he had his own money, he didn't have to go through a criteria with a
Yeah.
bank or a private investor,
Yeah,
right?
just throw money at it. Mhm. Interesting point.
So
Wow.
yeah, so when I started the company, I had just had a baby, and I lived in an RV with my husband at the time because I basically resigned because I knew um, they wouldn't keep me, and so I resigned and just decided, okay, well, I'm gonna start. My company name is Amy McDonald and Associates LLC, and we have been busy ever since.
Mhm.
Like now we're in our 21st year. Like it's just been this incredible journey that I am so grateful for.
That's incredible. I love this
I just
story.
stayed, and I
Wow.
stayed open, right? Like I just everything that we've done, we've learned and grown from.
Yeah. What I love the most about this story, and it's not meant negatively, quite the contrary, it's very positively, is that because of almost your like naivety as a young woman going into the world, like, oh, I can just do this and I'll figure it out and I'll make it better and do this, where other people would have said, no, you need to calculate, you need to make a business plan, you need like you kind of just naively just like went into it and followed your heart and your intuition, and that led you to have this beautiful company you have today. And I spoke of, well, my my uncle is quite a successful business owner himself, and I remember going one of his speeches, and he said, or someone in the audience asked, like, what is an important quality for a business owner, and he said it's a healthy amount of naivety,
Ah,
because he said if I would know all the difficult things that I had to go through, I would have never started. I was so naive to I had a dream, I knew I wanted to contribute to something, and I just went for it. And then, like many people who are very successful, you have to go through a lot of very difficult moments and you have to overcome them. And if you would have known, you may have never started. So I see that in you, and how naturally it then evolved. And I'm very curious to learn more about what happened next. So you started the company. I Oh yeah, could you tell a little bit more about like your vision of how you started to hire your whole team? I think that that's
yeah.
very beautiful too.
I want to just follow up on what you said.
Yeah.
For me, it's been courage and curiosity.
Mm.
Like curiosity, we
Yeah.
don't talk about it. It it's so fundamentally important to our lives, all through our lives.
Mm.
And
Seems to be dying these days with
oh
all
yeah,
social
well
media and
exactly. Curating it, like really just yeah, and that I think because if you're curious and you have courage, maybe that's a better order for them. And maybe and some sprinkled naivety, you can do anything.
yeah, with
Yeah.
yeah, and I love you said also that sound like a lot of times in your life you said an intention. Was that correct? Did I hear that? Like the intention of starting something, or not necessarily?
I don't know that it's I don't think it's an intention. I
Oh.
mean, what I've come to realize is my life's work, the blessing of my life is to create sacred spaces for people.
Mm.
And when I look back, even in my 20s when I lived in Toronto, that's what I was doing. It was
Mm.
different. They need to be successful and I mean all of the other things, right? But at the core,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always see these like vessels of places, and it might not have a building, right? It might be more of an intention.
Mm. Oh yeah.
But so
That,
I don't know that I said it. I mean, right now, and we can talk about that. I definitely have an intention, but we'll get to that part.
No, I think you're right. It's not so much about intention. Intention may be something that follows naturally after you've gotten clear on what your purpose is or your reason of
Yeah, because if you
existence.
got an intention, my concern, like when I heard you say that, I thought by setting an intention, you're going into the future. When if you stay in the moment and kind of go with the flow,
Oh,
the intention unfolds in a much more powerful way.
wow, that's so beautiful because I don't know why I brought up the intention, but someone told me a couple days ago, and then it's a known quote or something, but the road to hell is paved with good intention. Have you heard that?
Oh, of course. Classic. Yeah.
So you're right. Being too stuck on an intention pulls you out of the
You
now.
miss the other signs, right?
Oh, interesting. That's yes, that's quite. Yeah, I'm learning something new once again.
I mean,
So
you could set an intention to stay in the moment and
yeah,
in the flow.
yeah, that's a good one. That's a hack. That's like getting around it. I think I'd love to hear more of how you then actually grew and scaled your company. Was it
Yeah.
organically? Did you have to, well, marketing didn't seem a problem because you had a steady flow of new people coming in. And your whole the way you build your team is a very beautiful story too.
Well, again, I didn't set an intention around it. It was really organic. I think because of the work, and this might be is part of my personality, but because of my experience at Miraval, I understood what it was like that the sum of each part or the sum of each person, right, comes together and is lifted. And I've always been, I've done a lot of personal growth around my strengths and weaknesses. So I knew right away when I started the company that at the time I actually started the company with my husband. My daughter was 6 months old. And so all I knew was I wanted to start the company because I was heartbroken from putting so much love and creativity into that property. And I also started the company because I saw so many gaps. Like I was like, why is wellness, I'm calling it wellness now, not integrated into everything, into the DNA of a property? Why is everything, hospitality silos everything? And it's this that creates the opportunity, right, for the staff to deepen, for the spirit of the place to deepen so that guests feel it. Always about the people. I mean, Miraval was the hospital. Like he basically took the hospital, the drug and alcohol, right? It is a hospital, and started Miraval and built a new rehab center. So there was nothing architecturally nice about it. I mean, I used to pray, right, that like people would come and not notice the fact that like some of the rooms leaked. I mean, it was never about the architecture when it came to Miraval. And that was one of my big lessons was it was the connection with the staff, how the people connected with themselves. And we allowed time, right? We didn't overprogram. We knew that the stillness or the walk from one, because it was, on a big property, the walk from one thing to another was equally as important as whatever they were going to or wherever they were coming from. So it just had this space, and in that space, people opened. Um, so anyway, I wanted the company to. I just thought, well, I mean, I have to tell everybody how awesome this is. Like, this is what everyone should be doing, all the resorts. Um, and I was wrong. But that was my intention.
Oh,
And then
there you
the
go.
other the other intention was building a business model before you build a building. Because
Mhm.
if Tom Morrell had done that, he
Yeah.
would still have built Monte Sagrado. Or well, actually, he wouldn't have built it. He would have built it somewhere else.
Mm.
Um, and so those are fundamentally the two main kind of pillars of Under a Tree. So I
Wow.
basically, because I had this child, this little baby, and we weren't even moved back into our home, the home that I'm actually in now, but I called the I called the woman that had worked for me at El Monte Sagrado, who was also out of work. And she joined me and I mean virtually because she had moved back to Denver. And so it worked, right? I had two immediate clients, Four Seasons at the corporate level and an oil and gas company in Canada that wanted to do deep research into integrative functional medicine.
Mhm.
Um, so those were the two first clients. Anyway, so this woman, her name is Jana, she was very organized and very detailed. And so she helped me like figure out how you write a proposal and how do you do invoicing and we came up with this sustainable spa solutions, which was sort of our tagline, and it was Amy McDonald and Associates. So pretty quickly we needed more people. And what I decided to do and what I realized was that there were quite a few women in the industry who had had children around the time that I did, who didn't want to go back to their corporate hospitality jobs. They wanted to stay home because their children weren't even in school yet. And that was the same case for me. So that's what I did. I hired incredible women who worked from home, and it didn't matter where their home was, because we worked virtually. This is just around the time that GoToMeeting, remember that? GoToMeeting? Anyway,
Oh, that was before Skype even. Yeah.
before Skype. Anyway, so I started to build this virtual team. There was someone in Toronto at the time that was really like a marketing person. Jana was more operations and detailed. Because the finance piece was really important, I've always had someone who's been a CFO typically, or an accountant, but that has a lot of experience with hospitality. But now, obviously, I have someone that understands wellness as well. So I just basically said, okay, I need an expert that does financing. I need an expert that does research and writes and does concepts. Like, I, could I have done it all? No. What I knew was I needed to be surrounded by people who were really passionate, were experts in what they did, and at the time they were all women with small children. So sometimes, we get on the phone and or the go-to meeting and we be breastfeeding or whatever. Anyway, or muting, right? Having to mute because the baby's crying in the back. Anyway, we made it work.
Nice. Amazing.
Um, because what I wanted to do was, oh, and they were all 1099s. And I did that because they weren't ready to commit to being an employee. They didn't want
1099 means
the contractor,
oh yeah,
independent contractor.
independent contract.
They wanted the freedom. They didn't want to go back into a structured, right? So
Corporate, yeah.
the conditions for me were, here's the scope, here's the project. If you can't travel, let me know, right? Like all of those conditions, and you can say no, because I didn't want any of them working on something that they didn't resonate with.
Mm.
But also, these were women, some of them with their very first child. I didn't want them to overcommit.
Mm.
So there was a freedom to that. And I remember that another consultant in the industry one day telling me, you don't have a real business because you don't have employees. And I was like, some of them have been with me like 12 or 15 years. Like, it's a real company.
Yeah.
And so what it allowed me to do is bring in an expert, right? For a while, I had a functional medicine doctor on like I could just pull in whatever we needed.
Mm.
And I didn't have the overhead. I mean, now we all, work from home, but then for them to be able to work at home and work their hours, as long as the deadline was met, I didn't care if they sent me whatever they were working on at 3 o'clock in the morning. There was no judgment, right? For me, it was like you got it done. And so that it just worked. Now it's a much more common
Yeah,
setup
true.
now, but it
Again, you were
worked.
ahead of your time.
But it
That's
worked. And
awesome.
now all those now all those children have grown up, right? So,
Interesting.
but that was what I did, and it has worked very, very well. It kept a passion and a freshness because they sometimes also worked on other projects, and I they would continue to grow.
Mm.
And so instead of it looking as a competition, for me, it was more, I mean, obviously sometimes, we had to talk through what if there were not very often, but there were, sometimes a few situations
Conflict of interest or
like, but
yeah,
most of the time it wasn't because they were open about it. And
sure. That's
But to
cool.
me, everyone was growing and learning, and yeah. So that is the model.
That's fabulous. And then, so what? So you focused on consulting, wellness consulting for those resorts and hotels that were interested in it. What then changed over the course of those early days to where you are today, and what the current, let's say, focus point of the company is, and yeah, and then we can even talk about the future.
In the beginning, I would say we had only a few clients. I'm talking about quantity, but we did like full turnkey. We would come in at the beginning, do the feasibility, like do all the financial due diligence, build that business model, obviously translate the business model and the financial performance into like an area program, right, where then the architects could start to build it. But we would stay all the way through until they opened. Yeah, so we had less clients, but we went deeper and we stayed with them longer. Uh, Now I find we come in at the very beginning and we come in
Mhm.
earlier than we used to. We come in really at the beginning
Mhm.
and we do the due diligence. We do all of the like the research. We create the concept, the business model, the area program, everything that the architects need. We stay involved on, to ensure that if the architects are, they need to do any kind of value engineering, we're able to always go back and look at the financial piece. How does it affect us if we have to have less space or we have to get rid of this or, right?
Mm.
So our projects are like our engagements are shorter, they're earlier and they're shorter. And what happens typically is then when we have put that together, they go and get funding.
Mm.
Sometimes we're involved in helping them with like a SWOT analysis to determine do they need a brand to operate it, which they often do to get the
Mm.
funding, which we can get back to. So we'll do a SWOT analysis of like the pros and cons of them doing it themselves, whether they get or the brands on the market that would be best for the concept.
Mhm.
Uh, and so sometimes we stay involved as advisors for a while, but if they go with a brand, then our role is over.
Mm.
That's what we've gotten, but that's the biggest change. Um, and then I think the other piece is there was a period of time. Well, we've always worked a little bit with the brands, but we've never. Four Seasons did hire us directly, the first client, and
Mm.
that was more the corporate wanted to really understand what wellness was, and so they sent me my first project was to go to all of the Southeast Asian Four Seasons properties and then see some of the ones in Europe, and then come back to the US and report on how we could create a global concept, a global intention
Wow.
um, of what Four Seasons was with wellness. And almost impossible, right? Because Southeast Asia, it's like anyway. But that, I learned a lot. And so
That's incredible.
at the very beginning of of the company, I did also a lot of work in integrative medicine. I had worked briefly in a part of the story I didn't tell you with a functional diagnostic laboratory, and I really liked the integration of hospitality and health. It's still, kind of our tagline. So we did work a lot with we worked with a hospital chain and we worked in senior care because this approach of weaving wellness through a business it can be different verticals. We worked with theater companies, we worked with Cirque du Soleil. And so that has sort of stayed consistent. We worked with Urban Outfitters on a home and garden center that they had in Philadelphia, and they basically wanted to grow that brand into something that had a touch component to it. So I mean, it's been a wild ride that way, but we've worked a lot with integrative doctors as well.
That's
Not
cool.
in longevity and not in the aesthetic, but more in really looking at like we've done a lot of work in sleep, but putting programming together that is more diagnostic and than like typical spa stuff.
Mhm.
So early on we did a lot of that. We do less of that now. I
Yeah.
mean, well, I was just going to say, and then the only other thing that's changed is we started working more with real estate companies, and that was just before COVID. all of a sudden, real estate companies were reaching out to us saying, okay, we're working with this brand. We're reading about wellness or spa, whatever they called it then, because we were in transition time, and we'd like for you to work for us. So that was new. We worked with the investment or the development company, and basically we were in the middle, right? The brand had their standards, and this is what they did, so we had to understand all of that. And then we obviously, but we were representing the owner, and so that started, after I don't know, I probably had the company 13 or 14 years, and now we do that quite a lot.
Wow, that's super interesting. So you get involved very early on now. That's I think where you can make the most impact. I see it in my work too, that when the earlier we get involved, the less problems get created. Because if we get involved when the architects or the master plan is already done and it's done by someone who has a civil engineering degree, might be very good with stability and all that things, and we look at the plan and it's like it's all squares in a landscape that's organic, that just asks for problems. And then they might have already started building that, and then they say, oh, can you do the landscaping? It's like, well, yeah, we can fix it, we can always do it, but you wasted a lot of money already just
Yeah.
by how you designed it.
And that's what I see. I mean, we come in and still, it's less so that has changed, but we come in and we're handed something and like this is what it is, and it's got X amount of treatment rooms, and like they already have it. It's often already in the master plan, and they leave a lot of money on the table because we look at it and say, okay, well, if you've done this and that, and there's this trend, so like you actually should have this, and the margins are better on this. Like we look at not only the guest experience, how it's been impacted, but the financial return and the performance really impacted. I worked on a project, this was during COVID, where I came in, I won't mention the names of the brands, but a very traditional brand, and the owners they were like, we're going to do whatever you tell us to do. And I said, well, I'm going to need your backing because I'm going to really upset this brand. But I looked at their space and the brand hadn't given us what we really needed for the entire project. So I built this, at the time, this water, like an incredible outdoor water garden. And and the brand said, well, we don't do that. Like we don't want that. We don't do it. And but the owners came back to me and said, well, how much is it going to cost? And what's the return? And it was a lot of money being left on the table. And it was just before every property started doing it. Now it's very common, right? We have thermal experiences everywhere, but they really supported me. And when the property opened, the first thing that was talked about was this incredible, water garden. Several years later, right? So we play that role a lot. It's complicated because we sit in the middle. And even though we sit in the middle, we represent the owner. Yeah, but that's
Um,
that's fairly new. That's in the last, 6 years or so. That's a big change. And then the other really big change, which I think is important, is most of the projects we work on are family owned. Our Peru project, Croatia, Thailand, I mean, Israel, they're owned by families
mm,
that have a legacy.
mm,
And so we come in really early, and it's such a privilege to be able
mm,
to do that because we have the opportunity to say to them, maybe you shouldn't go through a traditional development process. There is another way. And there are gaps in that, right? It's harder to get funding,
yeah.
less investors, right? But that's changing because it comes down to who is going to who is the investor, because the only way for them to get funding is to go with a brand. It's the easy way, right? It's what we've always done. And I have found that that's a lot of what I do now is talk them through the higher risk or the higher perceived risk of potentially going with a brand that they might not know, if there's a brand that meets their values, which there aren't very many,
Mm,
or doing it themselves.
mhm,
And then if they're open to that, or what that looks like, right, then I now have investors that I can call and say, are you interested in this project? So now I feel more like a matchmaker, like, this project in order to move forward needs this type of investor that wants to invest in a regenerative property, wants to whatever, like the values meet.
But yeah.
So that's really how my business has really changed is I want them to get the funding so that they don't have to make the compromises to the land
Mhm.
and to their legacy.
Wow. Yeah, and that's where you have your regenerative impact on a wider scale. So that's very exciting. And then I feel like I have so much more questions, but we're slowly running out of time. But what is your biggest challenge when it comes down to you are involved early on, you kind of together with the clients set the vision, create the concept,
Mm.
and then you have to hand it over to the planners, such as myself, architects. What's usually a friction point there or a challenge in getting that translation happening?
There's always a friction, um, and the tension is sometimes can be very creative. I'm going to use the word intention. Our intention, our responsibility to our client is to ensure what we're recommending is future, and I don't like the word trend, but is going to meet where wellness is evolving to.
Mhm. Which
Um,
is, I mean, that's a whole other kind
yeah.
of worms, maybe.
That like so we're looking at guest experience. We are looking at functionality. So we come up with a roadmap for the architects of all of that
Yeah.
beforehand, typically, right? But what we see is a lot of architects, are not looking at the financial performance. And they're not considering because they don't understand because wellness has evolved so quickly
Mhm.
understand functionality. And so that's where the tension is. We want to do this because for them, traditionally, we focused that architecture is the most important part. That's why most people that have a vision, they hire an architect right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And that is my biggest frustration,
Yeah.
biggest challenge. And as I know it is for many of us, this is not a negative on architects,
No, no.
right? There's a much more natural in a regenerative development, there's a different process. The architects come in later, still play a really important role, but for me, the owners if they're hiring architects, they're hiring architects because we've proven out the business model.
Well, can you repeat that again?
Before they hire architects, and
Yeah.
sometimes they need renderings, right? I mean, there's
Yeah,
some
some
things
ideas or something.
the business model. They need like that's probably the
Yeah.
greatest thing that we offer because sometimes we say no. We've had clients where no matter what we do, we can't make it perform the way that it should for the investment, right? For the risk that the owner is making. That's our role is to be honest, right? But
Nice.
once they go through that due diligence, and it's not as fun as architecture, but then we're able to really give the architects what they need. But if the business model isn't viable, they should not be hiring architects and continue. I mean, unless they want to, right? It's
Yeah, it's
always
up
their
to
choice, but at
them.
least
And
they're
then,
informed at
yeah,
the risk
yeah,
before they move forward with much, because, the cost to bring us in is like so minimal in comparison to, an architectural firm.
nice. Yeah, I love that. It actually makes the process and the project way more resourceful because a lot
Yeah.
of people, yeah, they think, oh, I'm gonna do a project. Well, I want to build something on the land. Well, I'll talk to an architect. Architect says, yeah, great, let's make some designs. And they make designs and then they may then go to permitting, spend lots of money, and then, well, if they're lucky, they will talk to you and you'll say, well, this is not gonna work. If they're unlucky, they will build the whole thing and then see that there's no business model. And then yeah, so that's super valuable that you can come in so early in that chain.
And like it's almost like what you do and what I do comes before, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't do what you do, but in some ways, you coming in first so that we understand more about the land
Mhm.
would be, or at the same time, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's where it gets really interesting because our first step in all of our projects is analysis. We call it, but it's really observation. Is to understand the current state of the land. We get the drone data, we walk the land, and we almost like ask the land like what is its highest potential, what it does it want to become. And
And
then
that's what we do too. We could do
yeah,
that together. Yeah.
totally. And then it's much easier to once you've got that, the concept just comes like I usually then put my hand to the paper and it's almost like as if I'm not doing it and it just comes all together because we've understand what the land is today, then the logical consequences of roads, buildings, forests, gardens, how everything is organized is just becomes a logical consequence. Yeah, that's super interesting to see where that overlaps between your and my work. And yeah, I'm excited to talk more about that offline and keep that ball rolling. But we're nearing the end of the conversation, and I still want to ask you, what are you most excited about for the next 5 years in your business slash hospitality or regenerative hospitality?
That's what I'm excited about. I see us moving away and understanding that sustainability is not enough. Like I hear and see and feel that. And I think the consumer is really changing what they want and what they're looking for. And I feel like the pendulum swung so strongly in this idea of like longevity, which has its place. But I mean, it's just like the perfect storm of our lives being overtaken by AI. I mean, it's just like
And tech and all, yeah.
the pendulum now is swinging back to basics.
I love
Like
that because, yeah,
that's part of why we see regenerative agritourism, right? Like it's opening the door
yeah,
for everything else. So
yeah,
that's what
that,
I'm excited about is
nice.
exactly the
I
topic of
love
today.
that. And that all comes together even with the longevity aspect because people are so focused on longevity. I want to live long and all that. But that the logical thing is like, oh, I'm gonna get an Apple Watch who's gonna tell me how I should sleep, and I'll get some supplements, and I'm gonna, and they will also have their place. But end of the day, you need to be connected to nature to live long. Like the
We need to be
statistics.
able to feel ourselves. If we're listening to devices telling us about like that, we've lost the connection of actually hearing ourselves,
Yeah,
feeling ourselves, right? Yeah, I mean, the longevity piece has been really challenging for me because so much money got poured into it
yeah,
and it overshadowed, everything else. And no one was talking about the planet. We can't
no,
longer and better without the planet being
no,
healthy.
totally.
So
But
that's what I
the cool thing is that I think we talked about it. That's the spiral. Like when you talk to someone who is so focused on their longevity, it's really hard for them to say, "But we have to take care of the planet because that's more important." They'll be like, "Well, whatever. I just want to live long," and that's nothing wrong with that. I think you, me, some people are waking up and be like, "Okay, we have to think bigger." But the beauty of this is once people will understand, like taking care of the planet and creating those sacred spaces that you refer to, which is your mission or your purpose in this life. And for me, it's to create healthy environments where people and nature can thrive. Very similar,
It's the same thing.
same thing.
Well, they have to be profitable too, by the way.
That's like, yeah, of course, that's a very, 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 very good point, very important point. Otherwise, you're just an idealist. But the point I was trying to make is that once we bring that all together, the aspect of longevity is fully covered in that. We're not going to compromise. It's not like, oh, because we care of the planet, you have to compromise that you're not going to live long. No, quite the opposite. If we get those places where people put their hands in the soil, the microorganisms get into their bodies, they'll come home like, I need to start gardening. I need to connect with the soil, and that's the real
Longevity.
longevity, rather than the supplements and whatever they're coming up now, even blood transfusions and all kinds of
Drinking
crazy
your,
things.
I know.
It's much easier. Nature supports us.
Well, that's the answer to your question about what I'm excited about is exactly that. What's happening right now. I've never been more excited than I am right now.
That's awesome. And so you're really in you talk to the industry leaders, you're in it, and you feel there's a momentum that
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
that's very exciting. So I'm ready for that, and excited about that too. So to be continuous, yeah, I'll be more than happy and excited to have you back on the show till we can
I
have an
would
update on what's happened and
be a
bring new
pleasure.
market insights. But yeah, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to come on the show and to bring all this knowledge and inspire people to go out into the world and do the same and start that business in regenerative, whatever you want to do to support the world. So yeah, and just a final question to really wrap it up. Like, where can people reach out to you if they say, I want to start a resort, or I want to work for Amy, or anything? How can they get in touch with you in the best way?
For me, the best way is email. So
Mhm.
it me at underatree.com, or I mean, a text or WhatsApp is fine too.
Perfect.
You
Yeah.
want to know my
So
phone number? Are you asking me for my phone number?
I don't know. I think I already have your phone number, but if you want to say it, you can. We can add it to the show notes. So up to you.
It's +1 520 400 5799.
Nice. So the fast action takers, dial the number and give Amy a call, and I'm super excited for that.
To
Hopefully
me,
you're not going to
text
get
to that
spammed.
number or a WhatsApp message is probably better than a call.
Yeah. So email Amy at underatree.com, right?
Yes.
Awesome. We're going to add that in the show notes. Well, thank you very much, Amy. Have a great day.
Such a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.